once you solder your ring, it's not round, right? Because you've tried to create a butt joint seam that is totally flush. In order for something to be totally flush, it's more of a D shape or an oval shape, right? Something like this. So now, to get it round, after it's been soldered and you have a nice seam and you're not going to solder it again, you have softened the material because you've heated it up to the point of annealing temperature, meaning that it's soft again. And you can then go ahead and shape it so that it's round to fit your finger. So, you guys notice these things over there? Okay, this is your first chance to use these. This is called a ring mandrel, and it's used to hammer your ring around it to make sure that it becomes round. And then also, on each one of these, there's 3 of them over there, there are numbers with dashes. What do you think that's for? It's your ring size. Very good. So you'll know right away if your ring is too small or too big, and you can make adjustments after that, and I'll explain that in a second. So some of you might experience your ring being super oval to where maybe it doesn't quite fit on here. And then you're like, uh-oh, what do I do? Uh-oh. What could I do maybe? Does anybody have an idea? What I do is I take it like this, and I hold it up, and I take a mallet, and I just tap it so that I open it up a little bit. Is that what you're saying? Okay. So now, I can put it on here. Now I have 2 hammers. I got the mallet, and I got a ball peen and flat hammer over here. If I want to shape this round, what hammer should I use? The mallet. There's a couple reasons why. Think about it. Take 10 seconds. Why would you want to use a mallet and not a steel hammer to shape it? Talk to each other, come up with 2 answers. Why? Okay, who's got one? One answer. Why would I use this mallet instead of a steel hammer? There's 2 major reasons. Yes? The mallet will not damage the texture. Very good. Well, let's see if we get the other one. Exactly. It will not damage your texture. What else? Tucker's answer is not working this time. Okay. I know. Tell me about it, bud. Okay, what else? Anybody have an idea? If you're compressing a piece of metal between 2 pieces of steel, what happens to the metal?
Doesn't it get flatter?
I heard the word. You will stretch it out. And when you're making a ring, do you want to stretch it? No. So, you could damage the texture, or you could stretch it out. Okay? And you might not want to do that. So, I'm going to hammer it like this. And you can also rest it on the table. You don't have to hit it super hard. I'm spinning it as I'm hammering it. And I'm going to flip it. Because if I don't flip it, it could create a conical shape. Okay? Because this is a cone form. I'm going to keep going. Sometimes you might hammer something and it might get stuck on here. Let's pretend it's stuck. Just go like this. Okay? Don't shoot it across the room. Point it down and tap it off. So once you feel like you got it round, see? It should look like that. Is everybody okay? All right. So after you get it round, this is when the fun part comes in. Before I do that, this is how you check the size. So this was intended to be a 6.5, and the middle of this ring is right over the 6.5 mark. You measure your ring from the center of your band. Does that make sense? That is how you know. Now, if I actually wanted this to be a size 7, and it's a 6.5, does anybody have an idea of what I might want to do? Stretch it with a steel hammer. Now, there's a problem with that. I will do what to my texture? I will damage it. However, what if I already have a ball peen hammer mark on there? then just add the ball peen mark more and stretch it. If I have a stamped texture or something that I can't replicate with the hammer, use a flat side and it will do less harm to the texture. You do have to kind of improvise a little bit. You will lose some of your texture. Sometimes you can put it back in there though on this rounded surface, okay? So I just do the same thing and I'm still flipping it. And it stretches pretty quick. And you want to do it all over because you want it to be consistent. So I've already stretched it, what, I did that for like 10 seconds? I've already stretched it like a quarter of a size. Okay? So you could do something like that. And I didn't damage my metal that much. Okay? So those are the two reasons why you would use two different types of hammers, the mallet or the steel hammer. Very good question. How do you make it smaller? That's a little bit more challenging. Does anybody have a guess? How would you make a ring smaller? You saw through your solder seam, and then you saw out a piece, and then you'll re-solder it. You'd rather have a ring be too small than too big, let's just put it that way. But you can fix it, okay? All right, now, this is a soldering, these are sanding pads. 150, 220, 350, 400, okay? This is how you would get your ring to be flat on the edges, if you want it to be flat. If you have a more organic contour line, you're going to have to go in there with individual little files that fit the contour shapes, okay? But for this purpose, which, raise your hand if you're making a ring that's flat on both sides. Only a few of you? Okay. A lot of you are doing organic ones? Okay. So this would not apply to you folks that are not doing a flat side. I'm using a magic marker and I'm putting a mark on here. I'm going to start with 150, 220, 350, or 400. Very good. 150. I'm going to do this in a circular motion. Like this. Once all of the black is gone, that's how I know it's flat and even. Now it's not totally done yet, right? I got to go a little bit more. I can go left to right. I can switch hands if I get tired, okay? Once I get there, I'm going to again go from 150 now to the next step up, which is the next lowest number, 220. And then I'm going to go to 350. It's going to take you a couple minutes longer than this, guys. I think you get the point, all right? And then I'm going to go to 400. And it's going to be pretty smooth. I do that to both sides, all right? Okay. Now, to get these edges clean and smooth and comfortable, this is really important because you're wearing it now, right? It's got to be comfortable. You have to knock off the burrs that you've just created. So, with my flat file, I'm going to get the outside curve, right? At an angle. I don't want to file my hammer marks. That will damage them, right? So be very careful. Anchor your hand down. You can also use the clamps, the ring clamps, and you want to hit just the edge of your metal at the angle. You're knocking off that bevel. Does everybody understand? I'm doing that on both sides. Okay? Now, for the inside, I can't do that. What kind of file do I need? What shape? Half round or a round file, right? So now, with this movement, you kind of go forward and up to the side. So, right-handed people, you would be going like this. It's kind of, this is probably the most complicated thing to explain. You just gotta kind of feel it. I hold the ring at an angle, and then I knock off that inside edge. Are you zooming in on this? And I'm going to do this on both sides. Okay? At that point, you also want to clean up your solder seams. If you have a big blob, that blob will not disappear and you cannot hide it with patina. You cannot. It will not turn black. okay? A clean solder seam looks like this. See this line? Exactly. It's white because there's silver in it, but you're always going to see the line, but you would like it to be a nice clean line. That's a clean solder seam, okay? And the way I did that was I filed it and sanded it. And I was very careful with how I filed it. I only wanted to knock off the solder. So I do it on the outside, and then I also do it on the inside if I have some on the inside. All right? Everything that I file, I then have to go over with what? Sandpaper, okay? So, no. The outside, you can use the sanding sticks. You're only hitting the edge that you filed. You're not going over your texture. You will put a sanded texture in your hammer marks. If you want that, that's fine. But you don't have to sand hammer marks. You put the hammer marks in there for them to stay. So then you go over this, and then to get on the inside, you have those little pieces that we cut up, right? And then you kind of go in there with your finger. And when you get to this point, that is when you're ready to add your decorative design to the top. All right? Is everybody okay? Thank you. Awesome. Okay, go ahead.